Hello, everybody, and welcome to Marketing Heroes, where we discuss everything marketing, especially for business owners that are trying to explore their businesses. And today we have a very special guest with us. It's a very personal friend, and she's amazing at what she does, and she does a lot of social media. And Effy, thank you for being here. Do you want to explain to us a little bit of what does a social media manager do?
Yeah, so a social media manager, you have to entail not just communication with people, but you also have to entail a lot of marketing, right? So social media is all marketing. There's organic marketing, there's paid marketing, there's a couple different things. But a social media manager essentially is gonna take, whether it's a product, a service, a person, whatever it is, they're gonna take that and they're going to be able to put it on completely different platforms with a specific target and goal. So maybe depending on the platform, the goal is going to be different, right? But a social media manager essentially is taking content and putting it out into the world. A lot of the times, these big celebrities that you follow, these big companies and everything like that you're following, that you're seeing every single day, there is a social media manager behind that, actually in charge of doing all of that.
Before we get a jump deep into the discussion, there's a lot of confusion to what even is marketing.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to have like a different definition. So I like to start off these conversations with, what does marketing mean to you?
So marketing is very vast. It could go, the scale is from here to here times a million, right? So marketing, in the most simple way that I can put it, it's promotion. It's getting a service, getting a good, getting someone, something, and you're basically putting eyeballs in front of it, right? Mm-hmm. So marketing has changed very drastically throughout the years, especially now that we are in a very digital era. Marketing is anything that will get you eyeballs. Okay. That still has not changed, right? So nowadays, marketing can be, when you're on your phone and you're scrolling, you see an ad, hey, that's marketing, right? Before it was you're driving, you see a billboard, that was marketing before, right? Still is marketing now, but now it goes so much more in depth. All those little things that you get in your email box, that's all marketing. Those little text messages that you get reminding you, hey, you need to go get this, something that you left in your cart. All these little things that you're getting, that was all marketing. So marketing essentially is grabbing a product, a service, a good, anything of that sort, and you're basically promoting it out into the world with the intention of getting some type of sales, some type of brand awareness, some type of insights. So it's basically just any effort, no matter how minuscule or big it is, you're going to put all that effort and you're going to be able to go ahead and actually put marketing efforts behind that so people can actually see your product, right? So they can be able to see it, so they can be able to know what your product is, what your service is, what you're selling. Marketing entails all of that.
I mean, I love that. To me, when I think of marketing, I come from kind of the asset creation. So photography, video. So I create a lot of assets, and you need a lot of content to post on social media. So marketing, I was always intimidated by marketing, because to me, marketing meant more back-end funnels. But, when you think about it, it's everything. When you are introducing, like you said, a product to the world, is how are people even discovering? If people don't know your product exists, then there's no way that they could ever even be interested in it in the first place. I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about the social media manager role, because I find it fascinating. So I launched my brand, Kaboom Media, and I've been doing a lot of my social media.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you, but it's a lot. It's a lot. I was looking at the different platforms, and I was trying to just do everything. I was trying to do, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. And the TikTok, I didn't download TikTok when it initially came out, and I kind of stayed away from it. But it's such a powerful tool. Yeah.
It's huge. That'll get you from A to Z as far as grabbing people and things in a heartbeat.
Right, but it's kind of intimidating. Just a reel could take you an hour. Yeah. When you're editing, when you're putting it together. It used to be okay, I'll edit some video, and you hire a production team, an editor, and they would take care of all of this. But nowadays, a lot of business owners, they're managing their own social media. So just talk to us a little bit about just a day in the life of a social media manager and how you help businesses grow.
Yeah. So I've been doing social media managing for about, wow, almost a decade now, a little bit under a decade. Yeah. So I've been doing it since I was very, very young. And again, that role has transitioned and changed completely. Every year it changes completely. So I'm not doing the things now that I was doing a year ago, or, and vice versa. But when it comes to social media managing, a lot of it is very on the, like, in that moment, right then and there. You need to be able to, as a social media manager and just as a person who's putting content out, make something out of nothing. So I believe that there could be content made out of anything and everything. So a lot of the times when you go and you're putting so much effort, like you were saying, it could take an hour to make a reel, right? When you're putting so much effort behind creating a reel, behind creating all these different things, you're creating the idea that you think the world wants to see. But the truth is, a lot of the times the numbers are not going to show that. That's why a lot of the times people who create all these great assets, they sit there and they take their time, their money, they have all this effort behind this one maybe like post, and that post may flunk versus someone who just decided to go into a TikTok and burp and get 20,000 views. You know what I mean? So it's a lot differently. It's a lot of it is just you have to just go and just post as things as they are, as they come, and your audience, they will tell you themselves what they want to see. Because a lot of the times you may be sitting here, you may be putting like, this is the things that I want people to see, that they're going to see, boop, 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 right? But your audience may not react to that. Maybe you're putting things in a way that it needs to be different for each platform, right? So maybe I'll take a video, and that video, now you have one video, say you have a 5-minute long video. You can grab that video and you can put it on TikTok. You can put it on Instagram. You can put it on Facebook. You can put it on all these different platforms. But you need to be able to put it on each platform in a different way. And that's the thing that a lot of people get mixed up in, is they use all the platforms the exact same way. Yeah. And each platform is different, which means that you need a different strategy for each platform, right?
So something like a video that would work on like Instagram wouldn't necessarily work on LinkedIn, right?
Right.
Like, so stuff like that.
Right. So you have different people are on different platforms, right? So that means that you need to target them in a different way. So maybe for LinkedIn, it's not necessarily that you need to be a professional using LinkedIn or that you need to only post professional things, but the way that you talk to people isn't going to be the same way that you're talking to people perhaps maybe on Instagram, or you want people to see different sides of you, and you're going to go to each different social media page to see those different sides of you. Like Instagram is always going to be a little bit more like, kind of like more like your flex zone, right? Where you're able to kind of put out there what you want other people to see you as. Facebook is going to be that more humility, where you're posting more about your actual personal life, more family related, things like that, right? Maybe some funny things up in there. You're going to have TikTok. That's like where you really are able to sit there and do like all the little fun things. So depending on the image that you want to put out into the world, understanding each platform and the kinds of things that you can put on each platform will really, really help you, right? Like maybe you could do a long form video on LinkedIn, you break that up, and now you're using 30 seconds of those videos and you're creating multiple assets that are going to go on Instagram, and then are then going to go on TikTok. You keep the longer ones maybe for LinkedIn. Maybe you do an even shorter one, but still long form, 3 minutes maybe, on Facebook, right? So it's grabbing that one piece of content and seeing how you're able to use that for different platforms versus just trying to put the same asset for all of them. Like grab the same asset, but break it up.
Nice.
Make it fit.
It's interesting you say that, because one of the things we do here at Canva Media is that we help you produce long form content. Right? So like we bring you over, we shoot a webinar or a podcast and stuff like that, but then we take that and we do what you're saying, which is break it up and try to take the most usable bits and use it differently in every platform. So it's really interesting you say that. And I wanted to ask you, like, in terms of effort, right? Like, where should people, when they're producing content, where should they put like a lot of quality versus maybe on social media, they don't need to worry as much? So like, for example, YouTube, we're seeing Mr. Beast do a video where he recreates the whole Squid Game, right? Like there's a lot of quality being thrown into YouTube. And I think that in social media, it's becoming a more casual thing. Like, what do you think? What are you seeing? What are the trends?
So for me personally, something that I would say is a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into things like graphics, right? Okay. I personally don't think that needs to be something. It's a static image. Most people are not going to stop and click or read a static image. So a lot of the times it's more just It's just more about getting eye-catching things, right? It's the same thing with a video. Like, a video could be long, and if it has a great hook and if it has eye-catching things, people will click on it and people will watch the whole entire thing, but it needs to be captivating, right? So, like, I would say focus a lot of your energy on the message that you're trying to portray, right? So, again, when you're doing these videos and things like that, like, don't think so much about the story that you're trying to tell people or like this entire long thing. Like, if you have a video and you're going to try to break it up, grab one sentence that could be put into a quote. Like, would you, if that was a tweet, would you retweet that? If that was a Facebook post, would you like that Facebook post? Any little thing, like, hey, if that was something that you read, would you think like, that's cool? Like, little things like that where you're able to grab something that someone just says and you're able to put that in itself. It doesn't require a lot of effort, but it's all about the message that you're putting out. So I think a lot of the times when you are, anyone who's doing content creation or just social media, I think that the most important thing that you do need to put time and effort into is the message that you want to put out. Because once you figure out that what message you want to put out, you're going to know exactly how to portray that message, how often people need to hear that message, the multiple different ways that you can get that same message across. And once you figure out that message, everything else becomes a little bit easier. But if you don't know exactly the kind of message that you want to put out, you're going to end up putting a lot of different things out. And then you're going to have to basically follow whatever the algorithm is telling you to put, versus what message you want to put out. Now you have a whole bunch of different ways that you can put that message out and you see what works within your message. So I think a lot of the times, it doesn't necessarily need to be something where it's a lot of fancy cameras or a lot of big, heavy, like expensive equipment or a lot of effort when all these different things, like 10 different angles. A lot of the times, it really could just be like if you hear from someone or like a lot of times people just want to hear things. They just want to see things. That's a big thing that people don't realize about social media is any little insight that you give other people into your personal life, into like a different side that they don't get to see, they're going to want that, right? So like if you're an entrepreneur and on your social media, it's all about entrepreneurship, that one time that you post something that was maybe meaningful to you, like maybe you're at a parking lot, right? And someone really, really pissed you off. Now you're talking about that scenario. That in itself might get more views, maybe more engagement and things like that because they're seeing a different side of you. So although it's good to have a niche and to post about certain different things, it also is good sometimes to just let people in, to just let people connect with you and to let them see a different side of you and to kind of give them what they want in a sense, right? Which is things that they just don't see every day.
And one of the things I've seen with a lot of these big personalities that they're entrepreneurs, they're doing that a lot in Twitter, where they're showing that more personal, more controversial side and kind of like bringing people into more of like who they are as a person versus their brands. Yeah. And I've noticed that they keep the branding more in like Instagram and LinkedIn. Yes. And then they use like TikTok and Twitter to show that more personal side, which I think it's really interesting. There's a lot of business owners. When should they get someone to like manage their social media? Because I think it's a lot of work.
It is. It is a lot of work, it's coming from someone who my last recent job, I was managing accounts that in total round up to like maybe over 15 million followers all around different accounts. So maybe one account had 5 million, maybe another one had 6, so there was a lot of different accounts. And I don't think it's necessarily a thing of like when you reach 1 million followers, when you reach 100,000 followers. I think it's a thing of when you need the time, right? Like I have clients right now who are trying to get me to like, start doing like a business with them, and they're just starting out. Like they haven't even made any posts yet, know? So I think that it just, I think that the real question for that is when do you want more time, right? Because if you're just starting out and you have the time and you don't necessarily need that time and you could do it yourself, cool. But if you're just starting out and you already want all your free time to be going to what you're doing, then you're going to need someone there who's going along with you in the journey. So I would say that the earlier you start, the better. Because the earlier you start, not only are you going to go through your trials and tribulations, but whoever you hire is also going to go through them with you. And they're going to know as you learn things that you don't like or things that do maybe like, oh, that kind of content works really well for me. Once you start to figure those things out, having someone there with you, it's something that they already saw, they experienced, they witnessed. You don't need to go back and explain it to them. Because as a social media manager, you're essentially getting into someone's head. It's all about getting into someone's head. How would this person think? How does this person feel? How does this person say this in their way, right? So the earlier you start doing that things, not only are you going to be able to figure out your brand, all of these different things, but you're also going to have someone there who's also doing it with you. So I would say that depends, right? Like if you're trying to take social media seriously and you're trying to put a lot of content out, I definitely would say that the earlier that you're able to get someone, especially someone from the very beginning, the easier it is. And a lot of the times too, when you're starting from the very, very beginning, it's a lot of times it's a lot cheaper to get someone. Like, I'm not going to charge someone who's just starting their social media
Right.
the same thing I'm going to charge someone who has 15 million followers.
Yeah.
It's a completely different bracket. So getting someone on from early on could, in the very long term, it could help you a lot, because that person could tell you, like, you know, now instead of you having to sit here and, you know, like with your businesses, right? Like, instead of you having to sit there and edit things and put things out, you can have someone doing it for you. And now all that free time you have, you're able to go out and market your things a lot more, a lot faster. So I think if you want, you know, productivity and you want things to move along a lot quicker, then you definitely want to start having someone manage your stuff very early on.
And so what would you say is the pros of having a dedicated social media versus the cons? Because I would guess that one of the cons is that a lot of the times if you hire someone to run your social media, they'll have their own vision of your brand, and they'll have even their own vision of who you are as a person, right?
Yes.
So versus, I think when you do it yourself, like, you have a better idea of what your brand is and who you want to serve and all of that.
Yeah. So I think that definitely, like, so let's start with the cons, right? Kind of like what you just said, like, a big con is, again, social media is, especially managing social media, is all about getting in that person's head. Now, if I think I know how you would say something and I go and I butcher it, that doesn't fall on me. It falls on you, because technically you said it. You know what I mean? Right. So I think the biggest con is having someone who's doing it, and someone who doesn't believe in whatever it is you're doing. Like, you need to, whoever you hire to do your social media, they have to believe in whatever it is that you're doing, because that copy, that message that they're putting out, you need to feel like it's coming from the actual person, service, or business that you're doing it for. So I think the biggest con is having someone who doesn't really understand your mentality, having someone who doesn't understand the things that you would put and how you would say it, right? I think that in itself could ruin you. Not having the right person doing your social media, that could ruin you. Or maybe they say something from your point of view and they say it in the wrong way, that can literally ruin you. Like, think about it, right? Like, imagine if, I don't know, Rihanna, right? Imagine she has a social media manager, and the social media manager puts something out and it was completely against something that she would normally say, or completely against something that her brand would do. Now there's also that chance, like, now you're tarnishing not just that person's reputation, but their brands and all their companies and different things. So I think that's the biggest con, is having someone who really just doesn't know what you're thinking, who's not able to really understand that. So I do think that when you come to social media, that's why I mentioned earlier, it's a lot about communication, and a lot of it is psychology, you know, like, you need someone who's very just understanding and I think for social media, you need someone who's very, like, who's more empathetic and who's able to place themselves as other people, so that they know exactly how to get that message.
So they have to be like a people person. They have to understand emotions, and they have to understand, like, how people react. I think to do social media, you definitely need to understand just, like, emotional intelligence, for sure, because you need to understand how something's gonna affect someone. Right. But, you know, I think that the biggest con, I think that's the biggest con for social media is that. And also, you know, like, you may have someone who's they don't have your best interest in mind. So I think a lot of the times it's very important to have key metrics in social media management. Like, you should not just hire someone and then you're letting them kind of take over. Like, especially at the very beginning, when you hire someone, you need to really make sure that you're looking at everything. Like, hey, this didn't go, I would never say it this way. And then give them an option, right? If you're going to tell someone, I would never say that in that way, then you need to give them variations of some ways that you would say it, so that they can start catching your voice, right? Yeah, you can't just blame them. You have to, like, tell them how to approach their posts. Yeah,
but I think that the biggest pro in doing social media is just that time that it buys you. Like, imagine you're getting all your messages across, you're getting all your advertising across, all your social, your organic, every type of post that you could think of, you're getting it out there, and you're not even the one doing the work.
Yeah,
that will buy you so much time. So now, say, like, I have a big campaign, and, like, say, like, for example, maybe you're having, like, you know, we have the holidays coming up, right? So let's say, for example, maybe during the holidays, you're going to have a big thing where you're going to have a whole bunch of people coming to your, you know, to Kaboom Media, and you're going to have them, maybe you're doing like a podcast with a whole bunch of different people. The whole entire time you've been planning it, you've been doing it, but you haven't actually posted about it. You don't know about it. Now, it'd be great if you had someone already listening to you, doing everything for you. So by the time that time comes, you didn't even have to do anything for it. It was already done for you. So I think that that's the biggest pro.
I like the Rihanna example that you said. And it kind of leads me to my next question, which I've heard this new mentality that in order to be successful in social media, you have to be controversial. So I wanted to get your opinion on this, because I'm the type of person that I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get political. I don't want to go into too many tangents that could get me in trouble. But I've seen a lot of people that are doing the opposite, and they're seeing some success. As someone that has managed an account with millions of followers, like many millions of followers, and it's big and it's controversial, but how does it perform, right? Like when someone says some crazy on the internet.
So just in terms of numbers, controversial content for the person that I was doing it for it would always hit the peak. Always hit the peak. So that was always the most engagement. But again, that just goes back to the other rule of you want to let them know something that they wouldn't normally see. So that's where that comes in, because they're getting a different side of you. They're seeing a completely different thing. They're hearing a completely different thing. And that's where that comes in, right? So I think that controversy is great, even if it's just a topic, right? Like, I have my ways of bringing up controversial topics, but I don't actually give an opinion about them, right? So for example, Twitter is a great way to do this. Twitter is actually a lot better actually sometimes than the news as far as how fast you get things out. You can go on Twitter and see what's trending in other countries right now and talk about them right now before you even get them to the news outlets, right? So I think Twitter, for example, a great way that you could do with controversy posts, if you don't want to put, your actual name behind an opinion, I think that the best way to do it is asking questions. Like, for example, when the whole thing with Andrew Tate was trending and things like that, a lot of people weren't going to sit there and say whether they supported him or not, because whether you support him or not, people are going to think differently of you, right? So some of the things, it was just asking people questions and asking your followers those kinds of questions. So a lot of it was just like, hey, what do you think of Andrew Tate? That's a way that you could bring up controversial things without actually giving an opinion about them. You're just asking people how they feel about it. And that also gives you a sense of, okay,
who's your audience and how they think and who they support.
Exactly. So I do think that, I don't want to say that you need to be controversial, because a lot of the times that also will get you in trouble, right? With your own fan base, with your own followers. But I do think that you need to be able to use controversial topics, because essentially anything that's controversial, it really just means it's really trending, right? Like anything there's always going to be more than one side to everything. So it's ignorant of us to assume that there wouldn't be a controversial side. So one way or another, you're going to be on one side, so that you could take the approach of actually talking about it and letting people know your side, but then that would also mean that you need to know your audience, or where you're just asking your audience and then you get to know what side they're on, right? So I do think that controversy is important, and I do think that the messaging needs to be very clear when it comes to controversy, because you don't ever want to offend someone unless you want to, then that's completely different. But I do think that controversy is needed, but now the way you go about it is completely different.
I think it all comes down to engaging your audience, right? If you're always telling them the same thing they hear always, they're eventually going to get bored. So how do you keep them engaged? You have to keep up with current events.
Exactly.
Things are happening around you, and you can't just live in a bubble and keep selling your cream or your perfume. You got to keep it fresh.
And a lot of the times, when you talk about these controversial things, a lot of the times also people are waiting for other people, whether they're celebrities, whether they're brands, whether they're these big companies, they are waiting for them to see what's their stand on it, Right. With the whole thing happened with when they were trying, for example, with the abortions and stuff like that, right? A lot of people stayed quiet about that, and a lot of people didn't stay quiet about that. Now, the people who decided to just not say anything about it and act like they didn't, okay, I'm not going to say nothing about this. A lot of those people, depending on the kind of, the kind of company they are, that hit a lot of people, because as a woman, for example, I want to know, like, if I'm downloading this app, hey, do you support my rights or not? And that did ultimately lead to people whether maybe getting off a lot of certain apps, not using a lot of certain things, or not supporting a lot of people, right? So I think a lot of the time too, it's also just like, you need to figure out, once you figure out who your target audience is, it sounds messed up, but you do have to inherently like go with the things that they would go for, because essentially that is your audience, right? So I think that it's very important to just always say something about it, whether you support them or not. But I think it's important to bring it up.
But I also feel, interestingly, like there comes a point where you want to kind of stay in your own lane. Because like if we look at what happened to Bud Light,
yes,
and the whole controversy, they hire an influencer, Dylan Mulvaney. But it almost became like, if you're a beer company, do you have to pursue like a totally different kind of like image on your brand? And like that, it's a risky move. It could pay off, but you also have to consider like reaching out to people to represent your brand. You have to be very careful. Giving away your brand to somebody else to be the face of it, people might not be receptive to that.
And that's where that comes in with when you are putting someone in like a face for your brand or a campaign or something like that. What you're doing now is you're basically shaking hands with this person, and you're saying, hey, you're telling your audience, hey, we're gonna, let's shake hands. I agree with everything that they say now. Right. That's how people are always going to view things. So that's why I say that a lot of the times it's important to say things about it. But again, yes, if it's under your jurisdiction, like if I am a medical company, right? Like if I have maybe a pharmaceutical company or a medical company, like maybe I want to mention things or talk about things that are in that realm, right? But now if I'm a beer company, that did happen a lot because people were really upset about the whole Bud Light thing. And
I think it's fascinating because it seems to be working so well until it suddenly people were not okay with it anymore. So like when you have a brand, I think that's when for example, with the social media manager, it's like it comes down to that point. Like it has to be somebody that understands your vision, understands your audience, and can really bring your message of your brand to the audience and connect with your audience.
Yeah.
And that takes somebody it takes intelligence, like you were saying, emotional intelligence. Because you have managed a social media team before of other social media managers. So like to business owners that are trying to hire a social media manager, what would you say they should look for in people that they're hiring for this role? Like what do you look for to see that person's good?
I think a lot of the times, especially nowadays, because social media is so prevalent, we tend to look at people for who they are and not what they can do. And I think that that's one of the biggest, I think that's a huge mistake that we make a lot of the times, because even with me, for example, like you go on my social media, you don't know anything about me. You don't know anything about that. That's me. I'm doing social media 24/7. I have it like that for a certain reason, But I think a lot of the times what happens, and I saw this happen a lot with the teams I've worked in before, it was, they would hire people and it was always like, oh, but their personal social media looks like this, and it's like their personal social media could be great because maybe they have 100,000 followers on their personal social media. That does not mean that they're gonna come to your platforms now and get the same results. That does not mean that they're going to come to your platforms and talk to the same kind of people that you're talking to. They have their ways and you have your own. So I think that the most important thing when we're looking for hiring anyone in a social media team is their skill set. Like you need to be able to like have someone who is extremely creative, someone who is extremely fast paced, because social media is all about quickness. Like
yeah.
I don't want to miss a trend because I already had something scheduled. Like I missed. No, it's up to you now to get creative and to figure out how to bring that on now and how to make it relevant. So I think you need someone who's extremely creative. Sorry. Extremely creative, extremely fast paced, and extremely adaptable. You need to be able to like, if I'm your social media manager, for example, and you are doing something, I need to be able to think for you, right? So it's like, okay, maybe he's doing a podcast. I should be right now maybe getting behind the scenes content. I should be right now maybe putting it on live, maybe like reminding people on all these different platforms. So you need someone that's the three things I would say. You need someone who's creative, someone who is extremely adaptable, and someone who is extremely fast-paced. Without those things, you might have a good social media manager, but you're not going to have a great one.
I think it's so interesting that you're saying fast-paced, because I have worked in a company that has videographers and video editors and has a social media team. And a lot of the times I found myself editing like a recap of an event, and I will make like this awesome video. And then on the other side, the social media team, they will be getting like footage on the phone, like on the field, right? Like they'll be getting footage on the phone. I'll be getting footage with the professional cinema camera. And then they will take that footage, which, you know, it's fast. You know, it's not too high quality, but they're getting it fast. They're there. They're getting the content. And they would edit a reel. And they would post it like an hour into the event. Yeah. And then I would get the footage, work on a video, spend like a day or two editing it. By the time it's time to post it, sometimes they wouldn't post it.
Yeah.
Because
it happens a lot.
It's not relevant anymore.
Yep.
So I think that that's something to kind of keep in mind of, that you want, when something is current and you want to let your audience know of something that is happening, I think you have to go with the social media, which is quick. You don't have to worry about quality too much. And then for the things that you want to be more like evergreen and you want to stay on your site, then maybe invest in the videographer, the editor, stuff that it's always going to be relevant, right? Like a webinar or like a landing page video and stuff like that. But when it comes to events, you want to show that, you know,
right then and there.
You want to know, let your followers know what's happening.
Yeah, so I think that something that I've noticed a lot with just trending content in general is that when a lot of the things now, like all those, again, like professionally super edited, like fancy, all this equipment, all this work behind it, a lot of the times people are going to scroll past that. Yeah. Right? So a lot of the times it is like you said, like it's great to just have someone there who's able to just get all these things and put them out for you, because if I'm posting things on story and people are interacting with them and they're looking at them, when I post it on the feed now, it's gonna bring it up to their feed a lot quicker than if I haven't really been posting about it, right? Or think about like one of your favorite, I don't know, like think of Instagram, right? And think of someone that you follow, like a celebrity or something. Like, okay, for example, did you hear about that white party that all the celebrities had went to?
The white?
It was an all-white party. Like every single celebrity was there, right? But they were posting their stuff right then and there. Now,
you mean like clothing?
Mm-hmm, it was an all-white party, right? Okay. But it was like a very famous all-white party. Okay. And it happens every year. Like I guess they have different themes. But this all-white party, what I'm thinking about is, it's been a month now. If you still continuously see people posting from that all-white party, what does that tell me? That probably tells me that they don't really have anything else to post. Yeah. So when you continuously are pushing the same thing out way long after the initial first time someone saw it, that's the kind of perception people get. It's kind of like, okay, it's the same thing. Like this person's posting the same thing. Or think about anyone in particular that you follow.
The content and
it's kind of like,
later.
Yeah, like it's too much. Like now that content becomes extremely saturated because it's the same thing over and over. And I don't think there's anything wrong with shooting something one day and then you're using it for the whole month. But that's where you have like,
you gotta mix it in, right?
Yes, like with my old clients, for example. Yeah, I would mix it in. So I would have little things where I'm like, okay, you know what? Like I would pick out, okay, like this was a great day. Let me get like 30 different little segments that are all like between 5 seconds to 7 seconds, and that can just be a reel. Now I have like 30 reels, right? Yes. Now it's about like also just changing their clothes. Like I would have my clients change their clothes all the time. Like, okay, cool, we're gonna shoot this and this. Now I need you to go change clothes. Okay, cool, now change clothes again. Now change your hair, put your hair up. Same thing, but put your hair up. Maybe put the different earrings on. Maybe change your polo. Like little different things where it's like, just make people believe that it was all shot at different times. Like you're able to schedule and to have all your things in one go, and you're able to break that up and have content for months, for weeks, for however long you want. But it does need to be like a different, you know? Like there's a lot of the times also when, if someone really, really likes your video and you're wearing a certain things, right? Like now when you go and post something else with that same clothes, maybe someone's going to be more interested to watch it because I already watched a little clip of this. I liked what they said. Let me watch this one. Or it could be the opposite, right? Where people are, I already watched this because you were wearing the same thing. So you kind of have to play on both of those things. Like, you know, like say really good things so that you're able, that's why, again, like those little key points to really bring out the significance of those videos, and also just like all the different clothes, so that if you don't catch their attention or something, you're able to do it maybe with the different, like, how many times I've watched a video just because I like someone's shirt, or because I'm like trying to look at how their hair looks, or something little like that. So I think it's also like a lot of the times too, like this is something that I would do with my old client. Like I would post certain things that were not good on purpose. Like again, he had
to create like kind of like engagement, like that shirt's distracting,
like maybe I would get a picture of a building that was extremely pixelated and post it with this great copy, and there would be so many comments. And that's the thing too that people don't realize, is that people feed off negativity on social media. And it's a messed up thing, but it's very factual. Like people love feeding off negative energy. So for every positive comment, you're gonna get way more negative. Always think about that, right? Everyone's always criticizing you, and everyone's always critiquing you on social media. So sometimes you have to use that to your benefit. So maybe putting something extremely pixelated just so that you could get people to talk in the comments, Like there's a lot of things too that it looks horrible, but people do on purpose just to be able to get engagement, to be able to get content.
You always want to kind of keep your audience like looking for little things, right? Easter eggs, something wrong with the shirt, something wrong with the hair, just to kind of get them to comment. And that really helps the algorithm. So that's really interesting. I didn't know that was like a thing that people were doing on purpose, but it makes total sense now that you mention it. Actually, it's I've seen a couple of conflicting ideas when it comes to, should people know you when you're having a business, when you're having a brand, and I feel like it might be like a case by case.
Yes.
Because I've heard of people saying like, if you want to sell, you have to get people to know you really well, because when people know you really well and they see you everywhere, then they're going to want to buy your product from you. I have also come with some clients that they tell me, I don't want to be like the face of the brand. I want to be running the business. I don't want to be in the videos. I don't want to be on the YouTubes. I don't want to be on the internets. So what do you think works, or do you think it's also like a case by case? What do you think?
So in that aspect, I do agree with you. I do think it's a case by case, and I also think it's a case by industry type of thing too. So I do think that when it comes to being the face of your brand, right? That's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
When it comes to that, there's a lot of pros and there's also a lot of negativity. I would say that the breakdown comes from the type of scrutiny that you want to face. If you are the face of your brand, every little thing you do, no matter how big, no matter how small, good, bad, all of the above, is going to affect your business as well, right? Like if you're the face of this extremely successful Kaboom media, right? And you go and you do something stupid, or you say something very offensive to people, right, what's going to happen?
It's more risky.
It's extremely risky, because now people are going to, again, associate whatever you say and do to your brand, to your business, to your company. So that's where that comes in. If you know down packed who you are, what you want to portray, and you are doing that 24/7, because that's what it is too. It's 24/7. It's not just when your cameras are on. Because if you're going on and I've built a brand around my face, around my name, say like my brand is based around like being positive. And now I go out on that one day, I go out where I'm not being positive, and maybe someone is recording me. Now that one video of me not being positive is probably going to overtake everything that I've done to have that positive outlook. So I think that, aside from it being a case by case, again, it's just a case by industry type of thing. Like if you're doing anything where your face doesn't have to be on it, I would say don't put it on there. Like there's a lot of businesses that it's like, we don't even know, or we forget the face of it. Like think of Target.
Right.
You think of Target, you don't think of a person. You think of that, probably the little dog with the little circle, right?
Yeah.
Think of Walmart. You're not thinking of the big family. You're thinking of just the grocery store.
Right.
So there's a lot of these big companies that have made their fortune. They're like Coca-Cola. Like you don't think of
a person.
You don't think of, exactly. You don't think of people, right? Yeah. You think of just more so of the message of what they're bringing, the product. So I don't think it's a horrible idea to become the face of your brand or anything like that. But I do warn people against it, just because of the fact that essentially you are being controlled by everything that you're doing. Your business will essentially be controlled by your actions.
Yeah.
So that could be good, that could be bad. So I do think that, but that's, again, I also just think that we need to focus more so on the message, the product, and the actual services that we're giving people versus me. And there's a lot of people who have had success just because of influence. Like, look at all these influencers. Like, if I have 1 million followers on Instagram and I post something, I just made a lot of money probably. And it's only because people are going to buy because they know who I am. So I think it's also two different ways that people come up. You know, that there's people who come up because of the influence. And if at that certain point, you have now the power to create a brand because of your influence, that's completely different. I'm talking about starting from the ground up and choosing whether you want to be the face or not. So I think it just depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, so I think if you have like a product and you're trying to launch like a product, like what you're saying, like influencers definitely have a big impact because they're known and people know them. They want to see what they're doing. That makes perfect sense. But it's also people get too obsessed about like themselves having to become the image. Yeah. And I don't think that it's completely necessary, especially if it's like a physical product. Yeah, you can focus on that more. But I think though, like if it's like, you did mention it's a case by case. I do think it's the service is being provided by you, right? Like I'm providing the service, right? I'm a lawyer. Or I'm like a business consultant. Then I think it does help to kind of put yourself out there and to put your content out there. And when people see you, they're gonna be curious about you. Yeah. They're gonna feel like they know you a little bit better versus somebody that they've never heard of before. For sure.
If your business is a service-based business, I definitely do think that creating content with your face will help you for sure. But that's why, again, like, it just goes by industry. But like think about Progressive. You think of Flo. You think of the girl Flo. But now what happens if Flo has been offered 3 times whatever she's making with Progressive to another company? Yeah. Like if she goes to a different company and now she's no longer the face of Progressive, it's like, what happens then, right? For the company and for Flo, like maybe whoever she goes, you're never going to see her as anything else but that. Yeah. Right? Or maybe your company's now is going to go down because you couldn't keep the one thing that was the face of your company. Right. So I think that you have to just be very, very careful about that. And if it's something that, if it is the face of something like that, like if you're going to bring like endorsements, like another face to be the face of your brand, like Flo, for example, you just have to be careful and like you have to realize what that comes with in the future. Like Duolingo, when you know you're on all these different apps, Duolingo's hilarious and they're doing that, but it's a girl doing that, and then if she leaves, what happens? And if she leaves, what happens? So that's why I think where like it's, you know, like I do think that there's pros and cons to being the face or not being the face, but I do think again that the scrutiny that comes with being the face is a lot more on a personal level. Yeah, and it's interesting because I have seen Progressive kind of introduce new characters to their advertising, or like Jake from State Farm. Right. So like I feel like these companies, like that is something that they're afraid of. So like that's why you see like new characters in the Progressive commercials, because they're kind of looking for a way to not give too much power to like a single entity. Yeah, and that happens when you're the face of your brand. You know, if you were to not be able to be the face anymore, your brand could like completely implode, right? And that's something that I witnessed with one of my last clients, is that he was a face for everything. Right. So everything. But it's like he's getting older now. You know, so when I think about that, it's just like I think about that and it's like, dude, like you created this whole entire thing around your face. What happens when you're no longer here? That's true. So it's not like Coca-Cola. It's just going to keep going because there's no face to it. Yes. If you're the face, then you're gone, your company implodes. I think you have a better chance at generational wealth when you don't use your face than versus you actually using your face. But that's just my opinion. So yeah, for those of you that don't necessarily want to be the face of your brand, like you don't have to feel too bad, is what I would say. Because there's other ways, you know, to just, you know, make your brand explode. It doesn't necessarily has to be you being famous. You can hire influencers, right? You know, they can do the work for you. Exactly. Awesome. So I wanted to go to the different social media platforms and just tell me like what they're good for and what maybe they're not good for. Okay. This is like a fun game. Like what you would use it for and what you wouldn't use it for. Okay. So starting with the OG. Facebook. Yeah. So Facebook is what I like to call my little dump truck, okay? That's the big booty girl with the dump truck, okay? Like, Facebook is that one place where people, and that's the thing too, a lot of people, maybe you are younger in age, they seem to think that Facebook, they don't need a Facebook. Oh, Facebook doesn't, we don't need Facebook. That's all for old people. But the truth is that there are so many people on Facebook. Like, there are so many people on Facebook. They engage a lot. So I think Facebook is that perfect, like if you want to test the kind of content that is going to perform the best for you, Facebook is the perfect place to do it, because you could do short videos, you could do long videos, you could do pictures, you could do square pictures, you could do wide pictures, you could do long pictures, like you could do any type of content. And it's very, very hard for, again, Facebook, it's very hard for someone to be like, oh my God, they posted this on Facebook, could you believe this? Yeah. Come on, like they're not really gonna say that, right? I'm not about Facebook at least. But Facebook is that one place where I would say experiment everything you can on Facebook. Figure out your content on there, figure out your target audience on there. It's perfect for that. It's perfect for long posts, it's perfect for short posts, it's perfect for engagement. Facebook is perfect for asking people questions and getting direct feedback and just conversations.
I feel like that is so key. Like people in Facebook are so open to conversation versus in other platforms that like I think the worst one is LinkedIn. Like I feel like
LinkedIn is extremely hard to get engagement.
People are so sick and tired of just cold messaging and DMs about people selling their services, and it's really hard to create engagements from strangers, right?
Yeah.
But in Facebook, and there's so many like groups and communities.
So many.
And I think that so many people like miss opportunities by ignoring Facebook because they think it's kind of like obsolete, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff in Facebook that you shouldn't overlook, like everything.
Yeah, you can create events on there. You can have, again, like you said, different types of groups. You can have, there's so many things on Facebook. You could do like live streams on there. So I do think that Facebook is that one place, again, just for testing everything and just putting everything out there from a personal standpoint, from a very like professional standpoint, everything, like sharing wins, losses, failures, everything. Facebook is that one platform where you're able to really, really test it all on. So that's personally why I love Facebook, because it really will give you an idea like, oh, okay, like me posting 3 times a day on Facebook didn't really hurt me. Me posting 5 times didn't really hurt me. Yeah. Now maybe on Instagram, that.
Yeah, like there seem to be less penalties for like when you make an algorithm mistake. Like all of the social medias have like such crazy algorithms. Like you have to do this and you have to do that. I feel like there's less risk of doing anything wrong that could hurt you in Facebook versus like on Instagram. Oh, you didn't post for 2 days.
Yeah.
Your reels are getting less views.
Exactly.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, for Facebook, I would just say just keep in mind with Facebook is just community, like engagement. Like literally talk to your followers, talk to your friends on Facebook. Like just talk to people on Facebook and engage with them. Like it could be something super easy, like a question in the morning, and just try to think about generically also, like, like what we all probably brush our teeth in the morning. Yeah. Right? Like you can easily ask questions like again, content out of nothing. Anything could be something, right? So literally something like in the mornings, like do you guys usually wake up? Do you guys brush your teeth or like go pee before in the first thing in the morning? Like I'm not saying that that's what you should post, but what I mean is like just asking questions that just gets you to talk to people, that gets people to talk to them. People want to give an opinion on things. People love giving their opinions on things. So I think using Facebook just for engagement and just, again, communication, community is amazing. Really good for community, I feel.
Staying in the Meta family. Instagram, I feel like its power more than ever relies on the reels and stories versus like the regular posting.
Yeah, so depending on a certain time frame, that could be accurate. But everything changes, the algorithm changes all the time. So there was a certain point when Reels first came out where Instagram was optimizing Reels and any kind of video content. But what I've noticed also recently is that it's not just about the video or the fact that it's a reel, it's about the duration of that reel, right? Like you want to put things that are a little bit shorter. Like right now it's very optimizing, like same thing on TikTok, like same thing, like things that are shorter, like 7 seconds. Like that's why I say like it's very key to just grab little components and grabbing one little line that stands out. And it's okay, cool. You know what? Just make a reel out of that. Like it doesn't need to be something that's 30 seconds, a minute and a half. Like it could be something that's very, very small, like 7 seconds. And what I've seen lately is that that's actually what's been working better as far as videos. Mm-hmm. But now they're also optimizing again, like the carousels and the pictures and stuff like that, because they had such a big push on only reels. A lot of people start posting pictures, so now they're trying to bring the pictures back. This is what I would say: if your views on videos are going down, pick back up the pictures or the carousels. Carousels, it lets people swipe. People stay on your page for longer. So then when you come back again and you post something else, if they sit on your page longer, now they're showing those people more of your stuff. So I think it just depends, right? Like on what's working for you. I would say definitely right now try a little bit shorter reels, and definitely just try more pictures and carousels on Instagram that are engaging and people can swipe through. Like, I mean, have you seen like maybe in the last couple of months like a lot of like those like August dumps or June dumps, like just dumps from the month? Those are really engaging right now.
So create like kind of like a series of posts, like some consistency. Right, like a monthly recap, like that kind of stuff.
Right, that's what I mean. Like a lot of people right now are doing this monthly recap where they take the 10 pictures that you're able to put on a carousel, and then people are just swiping, and it's 10 different pictures from that month, things that you did, things that stood out to you that month. So, you know, again, Instagram's kind of like that one platform where you can kind of flex a little bit, where you can kind of show people. Instagram's that one place where you are gonna have for people, other people to come and be like, okay, this is what that person is, because you want them to think that of you.
Okay, and can you explain a little bit like how Reels, stories, and posts works in terms of like reaching different types of audiences?
Yeah.
I've noticed like I'll get in my feed posts from strangers, but because it's kind of like something that I'm interested in, it would show on my profile. But I don't believe stories does that, does it?
No. So stories are only from people that you follow.
Okay.
That's it. That's the only type of stories that you're gonna see. So with stories, the only time that someone could publicly see your Instagram story is if you have like a location tag, for example.
Okay, so those are good.
Those are good, yeah. Like if you're in a location, like I've done locations like, okay, like right now we're in Miami, right?
Yeah.
I've done locations where I've posted something, maybe like I've been at a restaurant and I've posted it and I put the location Miami, Florida, and then people who are tuning into that hashtag or that location will be able to then watch your story, because you're basically allowing it. And again, I have a public profile, right? If you have a private profile, that's not gonna work. But if you have a public profile, then when you do things like you're tagging locations and stuff like that on your story, people are gonna be able to then tap in and see those kinds of things. So that's one way you can get a bigger reach through stories. But I do think that stories are very important on Instagram, just in general. Like you want to make sure that you're posting stories throughout the day. Like I got my personal Instagram, for example, I had really, really good engagement on my stories and stuff like that. And I was posting on my feed maybe like, this is complete like social media, like the emperor do this, but I was posting maybe like once or twice a year, right?
Wow.
But on my stories, I had the engagement of someone who was posting like my engagements. You would think that I was posting something like every single day, but it's because I did a lot of stories. I did a lot of engagement through Instagram stories, like a lot of polls, a lot of different, like not just stories, but like think about stories, right? Like you could tell stories on the story. So maybe when I'm waking up and something really got me upset, like I'm gonna tell my Instagram stories. Or if something really made me happy, I'm gonna tell my Instagram stories. Like they love hearing stories and being part of you. And the more that they watch your stories and the more that they engage with them, the more that you're gonna pop up on their feed, right? So I think Instagram stories are key. They're critical. Like that's something, like if you're on Instagram, you should be posting stories every single day about little things that you're doing, because 9 times out of 10, they might see your story, but they're more than they're gonna see your post.
So how many times should I be posting stories in a week?
Depends. I would say like it just depends. You know, like minimum, I would say probably like 3 times a day on your story.
Wow.
It's like, you know, you could do one in the morning, afternoon, and night. They're gonna last 24 hours, right? So by doing that, you're able to kind of see like, okay, like are most of your people active at night, in the daytime, and you might actually give your new audiences new insights as to like, oh, you're posting more in the daytime. Now maybe your peak audience changes to the daytime because now you're testing a time that you were testing before. So I think that honestly, like when it comes to stories, I don't think that there's a limit on how many or how little you should be doing. But I do think that you need to have like a series of stories throughout your day, like just letting people in on your life, on what you're doing, and just little things. Like maybe people post everything on their stories. They post their dog, they post their other pets, they post their food for that day, what did they eat for breakfast, for dinner, for lunch, like all these different things. So I think that stories is just a way that you can just put things out there.
Right. And what would you say about Reels? Because I think they're very interesting because they will show that content to people all over. And sometimes it's people that live in like another country that you can't even sell your product to them. Yeah. But it's like an amazing tool, and you see whether it's like a service individual that provides a service or it's a product, you're seeing a lot of Reels, that the commercialization of Reels. So like explain to us a little bit how they work. So
Reels have a big capacity of getting way more impressions than maybe a normal post does, right? Yeah. And the reason why, when it comes to impressions, is basically how many eyeballs people are looking at, right? How many eyeballs you have on your post, on your Reel. So when it comes to the Reel, again, like I think right now the best optimization is just getting something short, like getting something that's like 7 seconds out there, right? Mm-hmm. And if you are going to put something that's a little bit longer, you need to have someone be able to be interested within like the first second. Like you want some, like people say 3 seconds, first second. per second because it takes me less than 1 second to scroll. So you need to captivate their attention within that first second, which could be really hard to do. But a lot of times too is people use different things with reels, right? Like maybe they'll use like a trending audio, and a good way to use trending audios are like, you'll see it like when you're going through like reels yourself, like you'll see a little arrow that's pointing up next to the audio. That's letting you know, hey, that audio is trending. And you go and you click it, and there's 100,000, you know, like reels already made with the audio. The chances of your video within that realm, maybe your video won't be the one that gets pushed up, right? But now if you have a trending audio and it has under like 10,000 views and you like the audio and you're able to use it, I would recommend you to use it. Like the less views it has, especially when it's trending upward, the higher the chances of your specific video actually getting more eyeballs. So I think that when it comes to reels, definitely optimizing like current trends. Like when the whole Barbie thing was happening was huge. Like there was girls left and right posting their little Barbie outfits, posting themselves wearing pink, doing little transitions and things like that. So just being relevant, you know. So
and also capitalizing on trending music, right? So like when the Barbie came out, like they had a lot of Barbie songs, you know, like there were like reels with all the Barbie songs. They're doing remixes. I saw like a bachata version of like the Barbie song on my reels. So I think to stay relevant with the sounds is very important too.
Extremely, extremely important to stay relevant with that. Or like new music, like if the new art, like when Travis Scott just dropped his recent album, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know any of his songs, honestly, like of the new album. But guess what? They were all pretty much trending when they first dropped, right? So a lot of those videos, if you jumped on that bandwagon, for example, of all that songs, your videos had a higher chance of getting pushed versus you using audios or no audios at all, right? And now you also have the option of putting audios and stuff like that in pictures. That could actually help you a lot. So I definitely think that the audio that you use is gonna help you. But definitely that hook within that first second.
Okay. So, you know, have a quick hook at the beginning. Make sure that you're using trending sounds and make sure that you're using trends, right? Like if Barbie comes out, dress up in pink and talk about your business, but do it in pink, you know? It doesn't cost you anything. Just get a pink outfit and do the same thing, the same pitch you always do, but just stay trendy, you know? I think that's the bigger takeaway there. Now, this is super interesting because Threads came out. And it was like a huge deal. I didn't jump on it because I just didn't have time for it at the moment, at the time that it came out. But I was very curious about it because when the statistics came out, it had like the most users like in the first 24 hours than any other platform, even ChatGPT, which had broken the record before it. So I want to ask you like your experience in Threads. Like what is it all about? I know it's a bit competitive to Twitter. Because Twitter has been going through a lot of changes, and we're going to be talking about Twitter in a little bit. But just what's your biggest like takeaway from what you've seen so far on Threads?
Threads was kind of like that one thing where it's like, oh, this is new. Now you have, again, it's a meta app, right? So when you have millions of people on Instagram, millions of people on Facebook, you're combining all those people now and you're offering them something new. And I think the reason why Threads was so successful at the very beginning is because of the fact that it was just so seamless to get it. It was so seamless where it was just, you download the app, it's already logged in, you just basically are tapping a button and it's creating the account for you. They made it so easy, right? It's like when they started introducing Reels to Instagram, like they made it so easy, right?
The integration is a big part.
What happens is that like the way the platform is set up, it's already also similar. So now it gets our minds using it the same way that we would use something else. In this case, Threads was very similar to Twitter, like you were saying. So I think that the reason why that's why it was so successful. But what happens after that is that like it was too similar, right? So now what happens is a lot less people are not using Threads anymore. Like they went back to Twitter, right?
Yeah, they came, checked it out, and went back.
And it's not, like
it's not different enough to give you a reason to like stay in it.
Yes. Okay. So I think with Threads and stuff like that, a lot of it is, again, it's just an integration app. That's what I see it as. So it's something where it's like you could put the exact same things that you're putting on your other platforms and put it on there. But it's more so just like different updates and things like that. You could do it in a parody kind of way. You could do it in a way where you're joking or letting people know your thoughts and things like that. But Threads one of those things that like, it was huge because it was new, but then it became too similar to everything else that now it's saturated within all the other apps. And that's kind of what happens with your content too. Like, if when you're first popping, it's like you're trying something completely different, people are gonna want to tap in. But now when you start doing things that everyone else is doing, you have a lot less chances of people actually sticking with you.
Right. So you never want to just copy whatever someone's doing. They might check that out, but then they might go to the original if the original is better than what you have to offer. Okay, so should business owners like jump on Threads? So what do you see in the future of Threads?
I mean, I definitely think that you should be on every social media platform and stuff like that, especially if you're a business owner, because it just doesn't hurt you. You know, it doesn't hurt you. Like if you are, you know, having followers on Instagram and on Facebook, like it doesn't hurt you to have a Threads account. It doesn't hurt you at all. Now, do I think that it's something that you need to be putting all your time and effort into? Absolutely not.
That's what I wanted to know. Because I'm not on it, so I feel a little bit better about that. So with something that has seen a lot of controversy recently and a lot of big changes, Twitter. And some of the changes seem to be good, and some of the changes seem to be a little confusing. What's your take on Twitter?
You kind of see what happens when you start to put a face to a business. A lot of the reasons people left Twitter has nothing to do with the actual platform. It has nothing to do with the interface. It has nothing to do with anything on the actual app or like logistics side of things, right? It has everything to do, a lot of it, with Elon. Yeah. People don't like Elon. I am boycotting Elon and I'm deleting my Twitter account. I don't agree with what he's doing with all the car stuff, the Tesla things. I'm going to jump off Twitter. I don't agree with his political views. I'm going to jump off Twitter. So now a lot of the things that people are getting off Twitter for has nothing to do with Twitter, but it has to do with his beliefs, his views, his perspective.
He's become the face of Twitter.
He's become the face of Twitter. So now even now with him backing down as CEO and giving a woman that title now, people are still looking at Twitter as Elon. Yeah. You know, so there's a lot of things when I think Twitter is that perfect example of what can like the negative things that can happen because of it. But now there's also the other side, right, where more people decided to go and make an account on Twitter because Elon is running it. More people have decided to talk about things or have expressed their opinions more often because they understand, oh, Elon's actually on Twitter engaging with people. You've never seen that before. CEO of Twitter engaging with people the way Elon does. You just haven't seen that before. So I think that him being very true to himself as far as like keeping people up to date and being very honest has opened the doors for a lot more people to actually come into the space, because Twitter this year is at its peak as far as how many people have been using it. No one has used Twitter more than they have this year. Yeah. So there's good and there's bad, sure. But in his case, it did, although you lost a lot, he also, his pros and his success was a little bit more, right? So when it comes to Twitter, I love Twitter just for you being able to just give your opinion on things. Good, bad, negative. The kind of language that you use can go from extremely professional to like extremely vile. Yeah. So I think that Twitter is something where it's just very quick update. It's very quick for you to put something on your Twitter. Like say you have a business, right? And so like maybe you need to do like a PSA to all your customers that you just, hey, like, yeah, I did an email, this and that, but they just haven't opened their emails, right? You're just able to be up to date and keep your people up to date a lot quicker on Twitter. But I think most importantly, Twitter is important just to be up to date on everything that's happening in the world, but also just in social media and, you know, in the metaverse. Like,
yeah. And I think it's interesting. I think Elon set an interesting precedent where he just started using polls to like ask people what should be the future of Twitter. It's become a trend to almost involve your audience with the future of your business, which I think it's a little insane.
But that's also the thing too, though, right? Like when you are asking people questions, when you are engaging with them, when you make people feel like whatever they're saying matters and that they have some type of say in whatever you're doing, people are going to be more attracted to you, whether it's good or bad. They're going to be more attracted to your brand because, hey, I can say something, whether it's good or bad. I can say something now. Like I have some type of say and it's going to affect whatever happens. So I think that, yes, he did put that precedent out and stuff like that. But I do think it's important also, like, Elon knows his audience to a T. No one can sit here and say that he doesn't because he knows them to a T. Yeah. So I think that him knowing his audience so well and he gets all this feedback and stuff like that, like, you can ask that. Like, do you have to implement the feedback that you get? No. But probably will serve you better if you do, right? So I think him including all these people in these different things and just always keeping people up to date, like, hey, gonna be stepping down, gonna put this person as on, or you know, like our financial officer stepping down, like he just like lets people in on so much that people feel like, oh, like I'm a part of this too, and people want to feel like they're a part of things.
I think people in Twitter are so used to controversy that they're less critical.
Yeah.
When you are a little bit more of yourself, they'll give you more of a pass in Twitter. So I would say if you have something to express, use Twitter versus your Instagram page for your brand. It's like a less risky thing to do. So TikTok is one of the most intimidating ones because if you didn't jump on it when it came out, now when you go, it's a little bit of like a wild west.
The thing about TikTok is that you never know what's gonna what people are gonna be attracted to, right?
Right.
You never know. Like you might be doing all these different content and you're putting it out there and things like that. So that's why TikTok is the perfect, obviously with videos, TikTok is the perfect platform to just also post stuff. Kind of like how Facebook is a dump, but TikTok is the perfect way to like give your opinions on things, try different filters. Stories and TikTok, they just go together. Like people love hearing about other people's stories on TikTok. Like if you look at the story time on TikTok, it's huge niche. Like people just, there's people who have literally built a huge TikTok presence just by telling stories. That's the thing about TikTok too. It's like that niche. Like you never know again what's gonna hit, right? As far as your content. So
it's so funny you say that because I edited a TikTok and I spent like 2 hours editing it, and I put like the voiceover and I filmed myself, you know, all over Brickle, and I posted that in TikTok, and it did its thing. It was all right. And then I accidentally posted a picture of me with the water filter doing like a funny Meg 2 review. And I posted a draft. It wasn't even complete. It didn't have any captions. It didn't have any music. It was just me like going like this with the water filter, and it had more views. So it's almost like, don't even overthink it. Just if you overthink it, if you're trying to be 3 steps like ahead of the algorithm, I would just say just post interesting things in your life.
TikTok is not the place where you want to sit here and, oh my God, I gotta do my hair and makeup. No, TikTok is a place where you wake up with your bun up in your head and you look crazy, but you have something to say. Maybe because your neighbor was yelling and they woke you up. TikTok is a perfect place to do things like that. It's a perfect place to post your dog getting in the trash and you being very upset about that. You know, it's a perfect place to post you pranking your friends or you know, doing little things. Like it's just the perfect thing about TikTok is a lot of it is a younger crowd, right? So a lot of it like TikTok is the perfect place. TikTok is that one young friend. Yeah. It's the perfect place for posting anything in a way like immature, anything quick, anything captivating, you know, like you can do your little bit motivational things on TikTok and stuff like that. But I think ideally on TikTok, you just want to stick to just that unpolished version of you. Yeah. You know, the very like the not refined one, just the very raw you on TikTok. Yeah. But yeah, TikTok is definitely that one place where you just
wild friend.
Yeah, TikTok's a wild friend where you do crazy things with.
It comes down to your product, right? If you want people to find out about your product all over the country, then I think TikTok is really good. If you're more like a local service, I think it's good to appeal to that local crowd with the location tags of the reels and stuff like that, because then it's going to show up to the people in your location. So I think that's something very important also. You have a lot of experience not only managing the content, but posting it. And I will post my stuff like whenever it's ready. I don't look at times, but it's not good. Like there are specific times that work better. What have you seen what time frames are like the best to post and stuff like that?
So something that I've learned aside from time frames is how often you're going back to it, right? Yeah. So something that I've learned with the apps is like, think about it, right? Like think about the apps each having their own little brain and they each are grabbing all the data that you're putting. Like your phone knows when you went on Instagram, if you looked at that picture of that person, they know how long you sit on that picture for. They know when you move to the next one. Like your phone knows everything because it's tracking everything that you're doing by just your screen, right? Keep that in mind when you're posting anything, right? Like, for example, with TikTok, like, it might work better, just with most platforms, honestly, like, it might work better if you post something and then you don't go back to it for a couple hours, because what's going to happen, right, is the algorithm's going to kind of be like, why isn't this person checking it? Why aren't these people, why aren't they coming back? And so what's going to happen is they might push your stuff out more to more people, so you can get more notifications, so that then you can click it and go back. Because essentially, all the apps, all your phones, they want you to be on your phone. They want you to be using it. They're all fighting for your screen time. So by doing that, the apps, what they do is that, so like, say for example, you're gonna put something on TikTok. I would say TikToks, honestly, all times during the day. I like to post them at night, because then you go to bed, you forget about them. So now it's 8 hours, minimum 8 hours of time that you're letting it breathe before you even go back on. So when you wake up in the morning, it's like, that's why a lot of people, they wake up and say, oh my God, I woke up and all these TikTok, like, I didn't know how my TikTok blew up. And it's like, it's because you let it room to breathe, and that was trying to get you back on it so hard that it kept pushing your things out. Now on TikTok, the great thing is also, it's like, a lot of these count as reposts. Like, me liking it could be a repost, right? Yeah. Like, me commenting it, me sending it to someone, me tagging you, that's all reposts. So now my followers are also now seeing everything that I'm reposting. Yeah. So I think that when it comes to just posting in general, like, just keep that in mind. Just like, post on all platforms, like, just post something and don't come back to it. Like, literally lock your phone, leave it, and don't come back to it, so that your phones and the algorithms and the apps can fight for your attention. That's a good little trick that I like to do.
Wow, I didn't know that. I'm the type of person that posts and I'm like looking at it to see like who likes it. Yeah. So like, I should just stay away from it, and then it's gonna show it to more people to get my attention.
Yeah, right. It could, and that's probably why that draft did so good for you, because you posted it without even.
And I didn't even look at it.
Again, it all goes back to your target audience, right? Yeah. You definitely want to be checking analytics, but a lot of the times I hear this, people tell me, it's like, no, like, my best times is at night, or my best times is during the day, and I'm looking at all their posts, and it's like, well, yeah. Your best times, your analytics are always going to tell you that your best times are during the day, because you're only posting during the day. Right. So until you start posting later on in the day, towards the afternoon, at night, the middle of the night, you're never going to know if that's is a good time for you to post. For example, LinkedIn is a great place to start posting at 5 in the morning up until like 10 a.m. Why? Because a lot of people, as soon as like they're able to like maybe get to work, like the first couple of minutes, maybe they're getting there early, like they're just checking their phone, right? So that's one of the first things that they see. Same thing with Instagram. Instagram's great to post really, really early, because a lot of the times, realistically speaking, when people wake up, they check their social media. Yeah. So if you're on Instagram, and you're posting in the morning, that may be the first thing that I see, right? Yeah. Or it's kind of same thing like with Facebook. So I think it's definitely checking your analytics and checking what's working for you. But I definitely think that, putting like early in the morning is really great. And putting stuff around like lunchtime is also great. Like, think about when most people are going to lunch, right? Most people are working a 9 to 5. Most people are going to lunch between like 12 and 1. Posting around those times when people, just think about, again, psychology. When would someone have the time to sit down and be on their phone, right? Probably when they're on lunch. I don't think that there's a perfect time for everything. It depends on your audience. But I do think that it's important for you to try different things, because even though you're here in Miami, maybe you have a huge audience in Latin America, and their time zones are completely different. Right. So I think just posting and trying all types of different, like, I remember when I started introducing to my last client, like overnight posts, everyone thought I was crazy. And when I showed them the analytics, I was like, but a lot of our target audience is in all these different countries, and we're not posting anything that they're seeing. Right. So when we go back and added all those time changes, those were performing way better than the ones that we were posting during the day. Right. So you got to think of who's seeing your posts, and then kind of like think of their time zones. Their time zone, their time schedule, and also just like your competitor. Like, if your competitor is always posting in the morning, maybe you should try doing not maybe the same thing, but also the opposite. Right. Right. Like, if your competitor's only
create some distance too.
Put something at night, so that people are not like, oh, I'm going to read this post, I'm just going to read that post. Oh, I already read a post very similar, I'm just going to scroll to it,
And I think that something that works is also like consistency. If you have a series and you're kind of like putting like an episode, like on YouTube, for example, if you see like a time frame works for you, kind of stick to it, just so that your audience just gets like psychologically programmed to know that your episode came out.
Right. That's what I mean by that. It's like a lot of times people are like, oh, my audience is only, my post only do good at this time. I remember I was doing a little series on my stories, like my Instagram stories, and it was just like, little inspirational, like it would be like a mansion of the day kind of thing. And I would, because on my way to work, I would pass these billionaire houses every single day. So I started posting them every single day, and it got to the point where people would be like, oh, I love this series, I love these series. So the series doesn't have to be something that you're putting on your feed. It could just be something that just gets people to engage.
What I love about social media is that all of these apps, they're free, right? You can go in, you can just do your thing. Yeah. But as someone that worked extensively, social media manager, are there any tools that you recommend people should check out that help you? Maybe like scheduling and just any software pieces that helped you along the way?
In the last couple of years, Meta has launched like the Business Week, for example, and it works a lot like a lot of these other paid scheduling apps where you're able to engage, you're able to post on Instagram, Facebook, and all these different things. Now, again, it's only with Instagram, Facebook, because TikTok isn't part of the Meta family, right? Or maybe all these other apps. But I think for Instagram and Facebook, that's a great thing you could do because it lets you even like post the same exact thing but separate the captions depending on the platform that you're using.
Wow.
So I think that using business like MetaSuite is a great tool if you're only using Instagram and Facebook or one or the other. But I think like one of the ones that I've used a lot over the last 3 years has been Sprout Social. Okay. Right, that lets me know. I get analytical reports through there. I'm able to reply to people. I'm able to check DMs. I'm able to have a whole bunch of different platforms. I'm able to do all the platforms on there really except TikTok. So that's a great one, right? Another one that you can also use is Hootsuite. Hootsuite is another one that's very, very popular that people use, but you do have to pay for that now. Now, something like more on the free side you could do is, again, using things like the auto schedulers that already come with the apps, like the Facebook MetaSuite, right? Another one is like Planoly. They have a free version that you can use as well. Just there's a whole bunch of different ones out there that you can use. I definitely suggest having one. Just because it makes it a lot easier to know, okay, this is going out at this specific time. And what happens is that third-party app then starts collecting data. And it'll tell you themselves, like, hey, this is the time that works better for you. Or your audience is most active on this time. You should post it on this time. Yeah. I love Photoshop. I love all the Adobe apps. Okay. I will always pick them over anything else. But there's a lot of people that don't have the money to pay for them, right? There's a lot of people who don't have the means. They don't know how to use it. They don't have the time to learn how to use it. So like there has been a lot of new apps recently, like Canva, that everyone knows Canva. Like Canva's great.
So I haven't checked that out. Okay, like can you describe that to me more or less?
Yeah, so Canva is one place where you can kind of go. It's like that's a really pretty graphic, or that's a really pretty anything. Yeah. Like visual wise, and you're able to kind of then put your own elements into it. So it's really it's very easy. Canva is extremely easy if you just want to be able to have if you want to just grab a concept and make it your own. Okay. Basically, personify your own concept. Like that, Canva is great for that. They have so many different templates. It'll break it down already with the size that you need, depending if it's for LinkedIn, for TikTok. I mean, for literally any platform. So Canva is great for that. There's obviously there's a free version, there's a pro version. There's a lot of things that you can do that even I myself am learning. Like, oh, I didn't know I could do this on Canva. Like I would just have done it on Photoshop,
Yeah, and I think that's something that you should jump on right away. Is the new AI. Content generating software that there's out there, like ChatGPT. It's like you could ask to create a whole post, and it's gonna give you text that you can go in and you can kind of edit a little bit to make it sound a little more human.
Anyone who's not using ChatGPT at this point in time is asking
to fail.
Potentially fail. Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
It's asking to fail just because of the fact that you're making it harder for yourself. Yeah. Making it extremely harder for yourself. Like, ChatGPT could be that one thing that you need it to be for anything. It could be an assistant. It can be a social media person. It could be anything you want it to be. It will create automations for you. Like, even things like website creating. Like, you can literally ask Canva for a code to create a website. Mm-hmm. You can ask it for names. Like, one of the recent brands that we just launched was made with ChatGPT. Like, ChatGPT can sit here and create automations for you, SMS campaigns, email campaigns. It can create the actual post for you. You can tell it like, hey, give me 30 different types of things for content creation for XYZ, right? And a lot of the things that people don't realize with ChatGPT is that you can, like you said, the prompts that you can give it, it's not just questions. Like the prompt that you can give it is so detailed.
Specific. Or if you need to do a breakdown, it's just going to fast track your progress, and it's just going to make it more efficient.
Yeah, that's the thing about ChatGPT. It will fast track it. It's not, ChatGPT isn't the end result.
Right.
And if you think that it's the end result, you have a little bit more work to do.
Right.
Because it's not the end result. ChatGPT is just, like you said, the fast track to help get you there. So at the end, maybe you might have to combine 3 different things that they gave you and make it your own. And you can even say like, hey, I like these options. Now give me more variations of that. Maybe with this tone out. Maybe I want you to do it in a, hey, like this is great, but let's give me copy that's going to target this type of individual, this type of people.
Even as a creative, right? Like my whole business is being a creative, but I wouldn't feel guilty about using it because it's a tool that you use. And at the end of the day, it's just going to help you in your business get stuff done faster.
Yeah, you can't think like that when it comes to just social media in general. Like you have to also remember like everything that's getting put out, it's very hard to have original ideas.
And there's a lot of demand for content nowadays. You have to be putting a lot of content out there. And if you're going to just do it everything by yourself, you're going to struggle because it's a lot. We're approaching the end here. And I just wanted to ask you some common mistakes that you see people doing in social media.
I think the biggest one is just like people being perfectionists, like just trying to get the perfect picture, trying to get the perfect pose, trying to get the perfect outfit, the perfect hair. Like that doesn't matter. That matters if I promise you that it's gonna be more impact. Like you could literally look a mess and your video might be more impactful if what you're saying is impactful versus you looking good and not saying anything worse.
And I feel like that could also slow down the production and you might miss out on like a trend or a current event if you're too picky on it has to look perfect and stuff like that.
I think also people get in their heads too much when it comes to social media. Like they get in their heads too much as in like they just begin to think too much. Like, oh, no, but what are they going to say when they think that? You don't know. You don't know what people are going to say. You don't know what people are going to think until you actually put it out.
That's so true. And I think one of the things I've seen a lot is that people will get really excited. And they will get really excited about social media. And they would create a whole social media campaign. They will post every day for 2 weeks. And then they'll kind of like just give up. And be like, I'm getting a couple likes. They get obsessed of getting results fast. And then they kind of like abandon it. Versus what I think works a little better is just doing what you enjoy organically and the content that you enjoy organically, but just sticking with it. And then eventually your audience is going to like find your pace, discover it. I see that a lot of people just kind of like stop posting to social media.
Yeah, so when it comes to social media, the reason why I say that it's not so important to have the perfect content is because consistency matters more. Than the actual.
I agree with that.
Whatever it is that you're putting out. And that's something that you and I both have learned is that it's all about consistency. It doesn't matter to me if that picture's perfect, if I only saw it once, or if I didn't get to see it at all on my feed because you're not even consistent enough that it even shows on my feed, right? But I think that when you're consistent, it helps you answer what your audience needs from you, what they like from you, and what they want to continue seeing from you a lot quicker than if you were to just guess and only post something once every couple months or maybe once a year, right? Another big mistake that people do is that they are just not consistent enough. Like they are waiting for the perfect time, the perfect moment, the perfect picture, and then they don't ever get nothing out. And I think that if you want people to see what you're doing, you have to show them what you're doing.
We're approaching the final section of the podcast, which is the marketing hero of the week. And I like to showcase something that caught my attention in terms of like a marketing strategy or just an advertising strategy. Now, something that I thought was hilarious is, let me show it really quick. Have you seen the chicken fillet billboard, Eat more chicken? I think it's hilarious. I have never seen a graphic that implements like kind of like 3D like this. I thought it was genius. And the genius about it is that you have to see it like a couple of times to understand it. Because they place it on a highway, so you're driving. The first time you see it, you're gonna like stare at it, but you won't process what it is. And then you're kind of like go a second time and you'll read what it says, but you won't notice like the cows. And then the third time you notice the cow and then you put it together. And I think that it's genius because they know you're gonna look at it multiple times. So it kind of works it only works if you look at it multiple times. And because it takes a couple times for it to register, it's going to be more impactful when you finally get it.
So that's actually hilarious that you say that with the Chick-fil-A ones, just because that was something I also pointed out recently, was just how much I love Chick-fil-A marketing.
Yeah.
And you have a cow. Their mascot is a cow. You're talking about, they don't even sell beef products, so that's why it's so smart. It's because they're using, again, they went with the whole complete opposite approach, right? Where they basically have a cow, and the cow is basically telling people eat more chicken, because the more chicken you eat, the less cows you're eating, right? The less beef. So I think that with all of these billboards and stuff like that, making it seem like, hey, like the cow is being sneaky and it's being a culprit, and it's like they're the ones that...
It's almost like they're the CEO of the company, like taking decisions and all of that, like the cows have taken over. I just thought it was hilarious. So that's my outstanding marketing of the week. Do you have anything?
I do have one. If you go look up L'Oreal and just look up Europe, and it's basically just the eyelash train, and then when it goes through, it will swipe the eyelash. And what happens with that, it's like, why would anyone want to see that? And it's because so in Europe, they do a lot of marketing. They do, I like to call it like exaggerated marketing.
Okay.
Because you see it a lot with that. There was another brand that did it with a big bag. It was like a little car, but they had a big bag, and the bag was basically on wheels, and it's basically just so people, they were just advertising their new bags. So with things like this, it's like the ideas are just so big, so crazy, that it's like whether...
It just makes you curious, like, how it feels. Like, you just want to, like, feel it, you know? You want to be like the train. You want to, you know...
and I think a lot of the things is, like, that's very easy for someone to come, grab their phone, and take a picture of it and put it out. And, I mean, like, we don't see... This isn't in America. We don't see any of this. This is in London, right?
Yeah.
So, how do we know from it? It's because so many people in London have posted about it. So many people have posted their videos about it. So, that was one of the things that I saw recently that it just...
And it's also it's like a pop-up thing, right? Like, it's something that's still there, and all of a sudden it's there. It was like, oh, what is that? Let me take a photo. You know, let me share it. Let me send it to my friends, because it's kind of like shows up out of nowhere. Yeah. So I think it's brilliant.
I thought that was a really, really, really smart thing for them to do. And there's a lot of different ones in Europe. Like, I love Europe and marketing over there. It's completely different. I mean, every country is different than it is here in the US.
Yeah.
But that was one of my favorite ones for sure that I've seen.
Well, thank you so much, Effy. You have been our social media guru as we traverse these tumultuous waters. We need your wisdom. And as a content creator, like, all of this social media, it's also like a new world. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your expertise. Where can people find you?
I'm on most social media platforms as Effy Chally, EFFY CHELL1.
Awesome. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you guys for tuning in to our podcast. This is the very first episode. So thank you so much. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.